Good afternoon. I'm constitutional attorney Catherine Henry. I have a little bit different scenery behind me today as I've gone to the other side of my desk and needed some place in the next video actually to talk about some constitutional provisions on the whiteboard, and it's going to be way easier leaning the whiteboards up against the window there. So interesting background for this video, but it is what it is. So my intention is to have time today to do a series of several different videos that I've been trying to get the time to work on and have not yet, but they're issues that keep coming up. So the first one is regarding parades and certain floats. Let me just tell you the backdrop, although it applies to any type of government-approved event, such as a parade, where there's some sort of float or participant in that event that some people think is offensive. So, okay, hold on a second. I'm being told that the audio is low. It seems to be fine on my side, but I will see what it is that I can do here. Let's see. Okay, I'm glad you say that it's good because, all right, I'm gonna have to keep going as it is because my volume's as high as it looks like I can turn it up on my end. So I apologize if there's a couple of people out there that are having trouble hearing me, but I'll try to be nice and loud. So, again, I'll give you the backdrop now that you know the general concept here, but as many of you know, I serve on the Georgetown Township Board as a township trustee. And I don't remember exactly when. I want to say it was our meeting in April. There was a request by a new organization to be able to host a Memorial Day parade, since the typical organizer of the event was canceling the parade. They had been feeling the pressure from different angles and didn't want, basically they didn't want to upset the apple cart in many senses. So they decided to forego doing the Memorial Day parade here in Georgetown Township this year. So this other organization stepped up and said, no, we would really like to do this. This parade needs to go on. So the group and the individual leading this group asked, what the procedures would be. And fast forward, we had a township board vote on whether we would approve essentially of a permit being issued to the group that wanted to make sure that the Memorial Day parade was in fact put on this year. The parade happened, and one of the parade entries was a float by Michigan Vaccine Choice, which I didn't see the parade float, but as someone who's gotten to know the people and the organization that is known as Michigan for Vaccine Choice, I can tell you that most likely it didn't tell you can't get a vaccine. It didn't tell you that all vaccines are, nobody should be allowed to have them, or, the government should be telling you what to do with them. In fact, it's probably the opposite. The float was probably, given all the years that I've known the individuals who are the heart and soul of this organization, it's probably full of a lot of statistics right from the CDC and the manufacturers of the vaccines involved, and the information that has been put out there by those companies and organizations themselves, not something that they just picked up on social media or even in the news, since the news is not trustworthy either. So, and they probably had the overall message that go ahead and look at this data, because in the end, you're going to want to make a decision for yourself. Wherever there's a risk, there must be a choice. And so with that being said, several people had reached out to township officials, including members of the township board, such as myself, emailing their complete disdain and disgust about us allowing the Michigan for Vaccine Choice parade in the Memorial Day, allowing the Michigan Vaccine Choice float in the Memorial Day parade that was held here. And they each kind of addressed it from a variety of angles, their complaints, that is. And several of them even acknowledged the Constitution and freedom of speech, but they would basically say something like, I understand there's freedom of speech, but this is not a freedom of speech issue. People can speak, but they can't give misinformation, things like that. So here's the deal. We need to look at this from a perspective of, who cares about anybody's opinion? We're talking about, first of all, we're talking about, in this sense, the lives that were lost by the men and women in our military forces who were serving our country so that our Constitution and our freedoms could be protected and secured. So let's think about that for a minute. The ultimate sacrifice was paid so that we could enjoy the liberties that God gave to us, and the same liberties that are protected by the U.S. and Michigan constitutions. So with that being said, I'd like to kind of take us down that constitutional rabbit trail. Number one is, let's look at the oath. And I'm going to talk about some cases today, because I've heard a lot of people kind of sharing some case law, if you will. So I'm going to throw some out there today. Aside from the actual language of the constitutional oath, which is found in Article 11, Section 1 of our state constitution, as well as Article 6 of our U.S. Constitution. And in Michigan, there's also a statute 15.151, and many others, actually. But the oath that we have to take as people who serve in any kind of public office, which includes attorneys, it includes judges and police officers and township board members, township clerks, teachers, police officers, anyone who works in government at all, at any level. There is an oath to uphold the U.S. and Michigan constitutions. And as a Michigan Supreme Court case from 11 years ago tells us, there is a fidelity to the Michigan Constitution. And that fidelity to the Michigan Constitution is crucial. So we need to look at what our Michigan Constitution and what our U.S. Constitution actually say about this situation. Because enough of all the willy-nilly, all my feelings are all that matter. And by the way, your feelings never matter. It's all my feelings. And who cares about facts? Who cares about truth? And who cares about the law? Well, I do. So our Michigan Constitution in Article 1, Section 1 declares that all political power is inherent in the people. Emma, just do what you're going to do. Get back to work. For those children who have been getting to spend too much fun during the tail end of the school year doing other things, they are finishing up their homeschooling now. At any rate, the people, members of the general public, have lawful authority to remain on public property unless it is specifically and lawfully taken away from them. So again, this is in the context, I mean, that's a statement that's true no matter what the situation, but think of it in the context of a parade on public streets that is, the permit essentially is approved by a government body such as the local township. So like I mentioned, the ultimate sacrifice was paid by those that we are honoring on Memorial Day to protect our freedom. So let's look a little bit more at what that exactly looks like. Almighty God is the one that gave us the blessings of freedom. And we can see that in our Constitution, the preamble from the state Constitution. And these blessings of freedom include the right to be free from discrimination, bills of attainder and ex post facto laws, unreasonable searches and seizures, excessive bail and fines, cruel and unusual punishments, forced self-incrimination, and deprivation of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. Rights to speedy trials and public jury trials, to be informed of the nature of the accusation, to appeal, etc. And you can look in our state constitution, Article 1, sections 2, 10, 11, 16, 17, and 20 for those provisions. We're also allowed to exercise our God-given, unenumerated rights, things that are not written down in the Constitution with a specific title or amendment. And those are recognized in Article 1, Section 23 of our state constitution and the 9th Amendment to our U.S. Constitution. Securing these rights is important. Our men and women that have died and paid the ultimate sacrifice in fighting for our country, for our Constitution, for the freedoms that we love so dear. The rights that I just mentioned a moment ago are so fundamental to a free society that we retained the right to free speech, to bear arms, to peaceably assemble, to consult for the common good, to instruct our representatives, to petition the government for a redress of grievances, to recall officers, such as in our state constitution, initiate legislation, and amend the state constitution. And if you're looking for where those might be, that would be Article 1 of our state constitution, sections 5, 6, and 3. Article 2, sections 8 and 9, and Article 12, section 2. We're supposed to enjoy these rights undiminished, unrestrained, and unabridged. And it's not just me saying that. You can look at our our Michigan Constitution in the preamble and in Article 1, Section 5. And if you are watching and you're from another state, don't worry, those provisions are already guaranteed to us the same way in the U.S. Constitution. I just didn't bother writing those references down in order to do this video. So someone's right to petition, assemble, or speak does not automatically end where a township says that another person's right begins. So it's not about whether I agree with Maya Han or the Michigan for Vaccine Choice Float or Joe Moss or the Ottawa Impact Group or any of the individuals involved in putting the event on or with this particular float. It's irrelevant whether I personally agree with the message they're trying to convey. Totally irrelevant. What matters is that those individuals all have rights. I have the same rights. You have those rights. Whether you believe more on the liberal-leaning side of things, and you think that there should be more government restrictions and there should be more rights for people based on their sexual preferences, and that abortion is a health choice for a woman, or whether you're on the conservative side of things and you think that regardless of any kind of sexual orientation, no one should have any kind of special treatment, that all lives are important, including those in the womb. And, those kinds of things, that there should be less government restriction in our lives or government regulation, okay? Regardless, if you're on one side or the other. Every single person here, if you are a citizen of the United States, you have rights that God gave you that our government has the duty, not option, the duty to protect. And that's why so many of our men and women, not all, but in most circumstances, that's why so many of our men and women have died in the military, was to fight for those values that we believe in, the freedoms that are guaranteed by the Constitution and given to us by God. So someone's right to petition, assemble, or speak does not end where some township says somebody else's right to not be offended begins. I haven't liked every parade float I've ever seen. And quite frankly, there's been a lot of things that I've seen that involve free speech that are about the killing of innocent babies, or about, any kind of, government mandate or something of that nature. A lot of misinformation out there. But our sovereign authority bestows upon us, and the due process clause of our, U.S. and Michigan constitutions protects the right to engage, this is a quote from the United States Supreme Court, in a full range of conduct which the individual is free to pursue. Full range of conduct, not cherry-picked by the government as to which ones they feel are less offensive to others with differing opinions. And what's important is that, some people said, well, it's the township, whether you put on the parade or not, it's township streets, right? Let's think about this. Let's look at this from the concept of ownership. A township's ownership of streets and parking lots is not as absolute as one's ownership of his home, with the power to exclude altogether citizens from using it. That is a quote from the Hague case from the United States Supreme Court all the way back in 1939. Also happens to be the year my grandma was born. So let's think about that. Ownership of the streets and parking lots is not as absolute as owning your home. Why? Well, for a couple of reasons, but it's long been recognized that ownership of public properties is in the whole people of the state, and no individual has any property rights in them over and above the next individual. That is something that our Michigan Supreme Court said way back in 1891. This isn't new stuff. This isn't, a bunch of concepts that I just kind of researched for the day and threw them out there because I wanted to pick and choose what I thought would support my position. These are absolute truths that I'm trying to share with you, that even our court system or legislatures or, we the people in general have understood for centuries, certainly more than one century, and at least in other cases for several decades. We should all know this by now. So government owns property in trust for the public only. And it must preserve the property under its control for the use to which it is lawfully dedicated. Okay, so I'm not going to go into specifics, but property that is meant specifically to house people that have been convicted of crimes, or property that is used solely for a post office or police station, that's not going to be property open to the general public just because it's owned by the government. But what we need to do is look at and these concepts, by the way, are from both Michigan and United States Supreme Court cases from People v. Harrison in Michigan Supreme Court 1970 and Adderley versus Florida in the U.S. Supreme Court in 1966. And in a United States Supreme Court case, another United States Supreme Court case, the court also explained to us that the First Amendment does not guarantee access to property simply because it is owned or controlled by the government. Okay, in fact, that's the post office case I was talking about. But it does protect a right of access to places traditionally open to the public, like streets. That was clarified in a Michigan Supreme Court case in 1984. So for all property open to there is somebody arguing something ridiculous about common law after the preamble. Yeah, we're going to get back to that. Anyway, for all property open to the general public, all members of the public have an equal right of access. And that's the Logan Valley Plaza case from the United States Supreme Court in 1968. All members of the public have an equal right of access to property open to the general public. That's whether it's property owned by a corporation or an individual or the government. If it's open to the general public, we have the equal protection clauses in there for a reason. And the very idea of a government republican in form implies a right on the part of citizens to meet peacefully for consultation in respect to public affairs and to petition for a redress of grievances, as well as to be able to simply get together to gather and share their thoughts and their viewpoints with others. And that's the Hague case from the United States Supreme Court from 1939 that I just mentioned. You can also look at Article 1, Section 3 of our state constitution. So assembly and discussing public questions are traditional uses of public places like libraries, parks, streets, and even facilities where government bodies meet. And those are all already recognized in several court cases. So a township cannot, by its own ipse dixit, which is, if you look it up, it's a term basically saying, well, it's true because I said it's true, the end, right? A township, and this is a quote from the Supreme Court. A township, by its own ipse dixit, cannot destroy the public forum status of a property, nor exclude people from such a public forum, such as a public street, in which all parties have a right of public access. They can't. So even if the majority of the members of this township board decided, we don't like the message that the organization putting this on might be prone to promoting, or we don't like the message that, say next year they come back and they want to organize another parade, or they come back and they want to do a 4th of July parade or a Labor Day parade or whatever. We can't go, well, we didn't like the message that they were allowing to be promoted in their parade, so we are not going to approve of the use of the streets for that reason. They can't do that. We can't do that as a township board because, as the United States Supreme Court has vehemently declared and reminded us since 1939 at least, a township then cannot interfere with, quote, the free access to the streets, parks, or public places of the township. They can't. It's regardless of viewpoint. So I want us to keep that in mind when it comes to when you think of the government allowing a parade to happen. Are you kidding me? We have the right given to us by God to peacefully assemble and petition the government for redress of grievances and to share our thoughts and to speak and to be heard. And simply because somebody doesn't like the idea or thinks that a parade on Memorial Day has to be solely about one aspect of the ultimate price those individuals have paid and not at all about the freedoms that they were dying to protect, then I'm sorry. But that's not how the Constitution works. And just like those men and women who died serving our country, they took an oath to defend the Constitution. I took the same oath, and I take it seriously. And my personal opinion is not allowed to get in the way of that oath. So with that being said, I'm going to see if there is a little bit of, wow, there's a lot of comments, and we have people from different, YouTube and, let's see, YouTube and Facebook, and I see some people that I know. Okay, one thing that I'm scrolling through here that I'll mention. Yeah, I can mention it here. I've said it before, but I'm trying not to go down a rabbit trail and make this video too long. You all know me. Somebody says you can't use the preamble in your arguments. You must use the common law after the preamble. Can't use the preamble in your arguments. You must use the common law after the preamble. Common law is another word for case law. In other words, it's law used ever so loosely in that sense, made by the court, except for the fact that we have a separation of powers and courts are not allowed to make laws at all. In fact, they're not even allowed to put their own interpretation on different provisions of the Constitution. Oh, hi. Hello. Give me 1 second. Okay. Unless they, if there is something totally obvious in the Constitution, they're not even allowed to give their own interpretation. Their opinion, their thoughts, their intellect is irrelevant. And what matters in those times is solely the language of the Constitution. So common law, not controlling. The language of the Constitution is. All right, guys, I actually have 3 more videos that I want to get out today. So look later. Hopefully I will get them now that I've told you. I feel like I'm on the hook. So one is about the MDHHS mandates regarding whether they are legal or constitutional. That's been coming up more and more still, even almost a whole year later. And another is a short video that I'm going to do on some of the drama that we've seen and what it means for our freedom movement. And fourth, I intend to do a video just answering constitutional questions on the state or U.S. Constitution. So thanks, guys, for tuning in so far, and I look forward to seeing you guys later. Have a great day.